Hi, I'm Rain. I'm 28, and I've spent the last 6 years of my life taking care of my grandfather instead of building my own. Not that I regretted it. Walter was the only real family I had after my parents died. Did you take your meds this morning, Grandpa? You know I did, sweetheart. You handed them to me yourself. Walter's smile always had that twinkle, even as his body was failing him. Just checking. The doctor said we need to be extra careful with the new prescription. I'd put nursing school on hold when Walter had his first stroke. What was supposed to be a temporary arrangement turned into years. My apartment gathered dust while I lived in my childhood bedroom. My friends' Instagram feeds filled with graduations, weddings, and promotions while I changed bed sheets and scheduled doctor appointments. You should go out tonight. That boy, what's his name? The one who keeps calling? Liam? He'll understand. We're just friends anyway. You're throwing your life away for an old man. I'm investing it in someone who matters. I meant that. Walter raised me after my parents' accident. The least I could do was make his final years comfortable. We had a routine. Mornings with coffee on the porch, afternoons with his favorite westerns, evenings with board games he'd let me win half the time. Then Diana started showing up more. My aunt, who visited maybe twice a year, suddenly had weekly concerns about her father's health. Daddy, you look thin. Isn't Rain feeding you properly? Your niece takes better care of me than I deserve, Di. I just worry. You know Richard and I would move you to our place if we had the space. I'd roll my eyes behind her designer handbag. Diana lived in a 5-bedroom house. The weekly visits became daily in the last month. She'd bring documents for Walter to sign, hushing me out of the room. When I'd question it, she'd snap. Family business, Rain. Dad and I are just updating some things. Then came the morning I found Walter unresponsive. The funeral was 3 days later. I stood numb as distant relatives who couldn't be bothered to call while he was alive shared memories of the man I'd bathed, dressed, and loved every day. He's in a better place, Diana whispered, her black veil not hiding her dry eyes. A week later, we gathered at Marcus's office for the reading of the will. I wasn't worried. Walter had always said the house and a trust would be mine, his way of thanking me for the care and making up for the years I'd sacrificed. To my daughter Diana, I leave my entire estate, including the family home, investments, and all personal belongings. The room spun. Marcus continued reading, but all I heard was the blood rushing in my ears. There must be some mistake, I finally managed. No mistake. Diana didn't even try to hide her smirk. Daddy changed his mind about a few things near the end, but he promised me. Promises aren't legally binding, dear. The will is... I looked at Marcus, who avoided my eyes. Liam, who'd come to support me, gripped my hand. They can't just take everything. You gave up your whole life for him. But they could, and they did. 6 years of care, thousands of sponge baths and medication reminders, all my sacrifices, worth nothing. I walked out of that office with exactly what I came in with. Absolutely nothing. I sat in my car outside Marcus's office for nearly an hour, too stunned to drive. Liam tapped on my window. You can't just sit here all day. Come on, I'm taking you to get coffee. At the cafe, I stared into my cup while Liam watched me with worried eyes. Something doesn't add up. Walter wouldn't do this to me. Then we figure out what really happened. When did Diana start showing up more? About 3 months ago, right after Walter had that bad reaction to his new heart medication. Liam pulled out his phone, typing notes. Who prescribed the medication? Dr. Collins. But Diana brought in some specialist. Dr. something, Mercer, said he was better qualified. We start there. Tomorrow we visit Marcus again. That man couldn't look you in the eye. He knows something. The next morning, Marcus fidgeted when his receptionist announced our arrival. He ushered us quickly into his office. I can't officially discuss this with you, Rain. Cut the crap. You've been our family lawyer for 20 years. You know Walter wouldn't leave me with nothing. Marcus glanced at his door, then lowered his voice. The will was changed 6 weeks ago. Your grandfather was not himself when he signed it. What do you mean? He was very medicated. I expressed concerns about his capacity to make decisions, but Diana had documentation from Dr. Mercer stating he was competent. So you just went along with it? I had no legal grounds to refuse, but he slid a business card across the desk. This is my friend at Elder Services. Hypothetically speaking, if someone wanted to investigate possible undue influence, she could point them in the right direction. We left with a lead and a plan. Liam drove us to Walter's house, now Diana's house, claiming we were picking up my personal items. Look at her, playing Lady of the Manor already, Liam muttered as Diana led us inside. You can take your clothes and toiletries. Everything else stays, she instructed, hovering as I packed. While she stepped away to take a call, I slipped into Walter's study. Diana had already started redecorating, but she hadn't cleared out his old desk yet. I quickly rifled through drawers until I found his medication log. Back at Liam's apartment, we spread out our findings. Look at these dosages. I pointed to entries from the last 2 months. They tripled his sedatives after Diana brought in Dr. Mercer. And the timing lines up perfectly with her increased visits, Liam noted. What's this notation here? That's Walter's shorthand. He was documenting how he felt each day. We pieced together a disturbing pattern. Diana's visits, increased medication, Walter's notes about feeling confused and not like himself. We need more, I said. This isn't enough. What about his bedroom? Did you check under the mattress? Behind drawers? Old guys love hiding important stuff. No time. Diana was breathing down my neck. Then we go back. Tonight. Using my old key, we slipped in after midnight. Diana and Richard were staying at their own place until renovations were complete. In Walter's room, I felt along the back of his bedside table and found it, a loose panel. Inside was a small leather journal. Rain, look at this! Liam's voice was urgent. The journal entries started 6 months ago, clear and coherent at first, then increasingly disjointed. The final entries chilled me. Diana insists on these new pills. Feel strange after. Can't think straight. Told her I already promised house to Rain. She got angry. Said I'd regret it. Richard threatened legal action over wasted inheritance. Something wrong with new will they brought. Not what I wanted. Must tell Rain. The final entry, barely legible. They're keeping me drugged. Help. This is elder abuse, Liam whispered. No. I clutched the journal. This is evidence. The next morning, I called Marcus immediately. An hour later, we sat in his office with Walter's journal between us. This changes everything, Rain. This is clear evidence of exploitation of an elder. Can we prove the will is invalid? With this journal and the medication logs? It's a start, but we need more concrete proof of tampering. What about this Dr. Mercer? Liam asked. The one who conveniently declared Walter competent? Marcus tapped his pen nervously. I did some digging. Dr. Mercer has been investigated twice for ethical violations related to wealthy patients. Nothing stuck, but he's dirty, I finished. Can we get his records? Not without a court order. We need something that directly ties Diana and Richard to deliberate fraud. As we strategized, Marcus's door opened. A young woman with familiar eyes slipped in. Evelyn? What are you doing here? I hadn't seen my cousin in months. I heard you were meeting with Marcus. She looked around nervously. My mom doesn't know I'm here. Your mom stole my inheritance. I know, that's why I came. Evelyn sat down, hands trembling. Mom and Dad are broke. They've been hiding it for years. Dad's business failed last year and they're drowning in debt. They saw Uncle Walter as their last chance. So they drugged an old man and manipulated him? Liam snapped. I didn't know how far they'd go, I swear. Evelyn pulled out a flash drive. But I found these on Dad's computer. They're templates for medical documents with Dr. Mercer's letterhead. And emails, planning everything. Marcus examined the files, his expression darkening. This is document forgery. And these emails explicitly discuss administering extra medication to make Walter more compliant. It's still not enough, I said. They'll claim Evelyn doctored these out of family jealousy. What if they confessed? Liam suggested. On record? That afternoon, we set our trap. Evelyn called her mother with news that important medical papers were still hidden in Walter's study, papers that might raise questions. When Diana arrived at the house, I was waiting. I'd planted recording devices in 3 locations. "What are you doing here?" Diana demanded, finding me in Walter's study. "Just collecting the last of my things. You won?" "Don't be bitter, Rain. Life's not fair. I gave up 6 years for him. You couldn't even visit monthly. And look what it got you. Nothing." Diana smirked, rifling through the desk. "At least I was smart enough to secure my future." "By drugging your own father?" Her head snapped up. "Watch your accusations. I know what you and Richard did. The medication, Dr. Mercer, the fake will." "Prove it." She stepped closer. "You can't. We covered our tracks." Funny thing about Walter. He documented everything. Fear flickered across her face. "What did you find?" "Enough to know you manipulated him when he was vulnerable. Enough to prove the will is fraudulent." "It was our money to begin with," Diana exploded. "Why should you get it all just for playing nurse? Richard and I deserved that inheritance. So what if we increased his medication? So what if we guided his hand a little during the signing? The old man was dying anyway." Perfect. She'd confessed everything, and it was all recorded. I stepped back, smiling coldly. "What's so funny?" Diana demanded. "I just recorded every word you said." I pulled the small microphone from my pocket. "And this is just one of 3 recordings I'm making. Game over, Diana." Her face drained of color. As she lunged for the microphone, Liam stepped into the doorway with Marcus and a police officer behind him. "All set for tomorrow?" Liam asked me. "Everything's ready," I nodded. "Family meeting at 10 a.m. Everyone will be there." "You'll regret this," Diana hissed. "No." I looked her straight in the eyes. "You will." The family gathered in Walter's living room at exactly 10 a.m. Diana and Richard sat stiffly on the sofa, while Evelyn perched nervously on an ottoman. Various cousins and aunts filled the remaining seats. Liam stood by the door, and Marcus sat next to me with a folder of documents. "Thanks for coming, everyone." I stood in front of the fireplace. "I called you here because you deserve to know what really happened to Walter." "This is ridiculous," Diana cut in. "My father died of natural causes. End of story." "Not quite. Let's talk about how you drugged him into changing his will." Gasps echoed through the room. Diana forced a laugh. "Don't be absurd. Dad was perfectly lucid when he decided to leave everything to me." "That's not what his journal says." I clicked play on the recording device. Walter's voice, weak but clear, filled the room. "Diana and Richard keep pushing these pills. Can't think straight after. Something wrong with new will." Aunt Gertrude glared at Diana. "You drugged your own father." "Of course not. He was confused. Old people ramble. How about we hear what you said yesterday?" I played the second recording, Diana's voice crisp and damning. "So what if we increased his medication? So what if we guided his hand during the signing? The old man was dying anyway." Richard jumped up. "That's been doctored. You can't prove." "Actually, she can." Marcus opened his folder. "We have Dr. Mercer's original records, showing Walter was over-medicated. We have the template files you used to forge competency documents. We have pharmacy records showing medication amounts that don't match what was prescribed. And we have the testimony of your daughter, Evelyn." Richard's face went pale. He turned to Evelyn. "You betrayed your own parents? You betrayed yourselves when you decided to abuse Grandpa." Evelyn's voice quavered but held firm. "The original will has been located," Marcus continued. "The one Walter executed 3 years ago, leaving the house and the majority of his estate to Rain, with smaller bequests to other family members, including you, Diana." "This is a setup!" Diana shrieked. "You all hated me anyway. You're framing me." "The officer who witnessed your confession yesterday disagrees." I nodded toward the doorway where the same police officer from yesterday entered. "This is Detective Sanders. He has some questions for you both." "You'll be charged with elder abuse, fraud, and forgery to start," Detective Sanders explained. "We'll also be investigating Dr. Mercer's involvement." As Diana and Richard were escorted out, Richard turned desperately toward me. Rain, please. We were desperate. The business failed. We were facing bankruptcy. We'll make it right. Just don't do this. Like you made it right for Walter? When he begged you to stop drugging him? I'm sorry. We didn't mean for it to go so far. Save it for the judge. 2 months later, I stood in Walter's now my garden. The roses he loved were blooming. Diana and Richard had accepted a plea deal. 3 years in prison for elder abuse and fraud. Their social standing was destroyed. Their fancy friends vanished. Evelyn was staying in the guest room until she figured out her next steps. Liam joined me, brushing dirt from his hands after helping plant new bulbs. Do you think you'll ever forgive them? I looked at the house where I'd cared for Walter, where he'd trusted me until the end, where he'd been betrayed by his own daughter. Some things don't deserve forgiveness. Walter couldn't fight back. I can. And I did. What now? Back to nursing school? Eventually. First, I'm establishing a foundation in Walter's name for elderly victims of abuse and fraud. The inheritance wasn't just money. It was justice. It was 6 years of my life validated. It was Walter's final wish honored. And no amount of apologies would ever make me forget what they'd done to him. Would you have forgiven Diana and Richard after everything they did? Or do you agree with Rain that some things don't deserve forgiveness? Where do you draw the line between actions that can be forgiven and those that can't? If this revenge story resonated with you, hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe for more compelling stories that explore the darker side of family dynamics and justice. Thanks for watching.